What's up, crew? Welcome back to Libertalia Game Supply. Today we're going to take a look at this Flame Swordsman deck I put together in honor of the Maze of Millennia set coming out this next week. We're getting all that new Flame Swordsman support, and I started playing around with it. I was initially going to combine it with an Infernoble engine that was more focused on being able to combo a little bit more with the Infernobles, but what I felt like I kept ending up with was like half of a Flame Swordsman engine and half of an Infernoble engine, and neither really quite did whatever it was I was hoping they would do. So we limited it down to just being go second, OTK, or bust, as I feel Joey Wheeler would most likely appreciate the most. And so a lot of the decision making here went into just being sure that we can make the ultimate Flame Swordsman with as much attack as possible on our opponent's turn, hopefully shut off some effects or blow up some stuff that's going to interrupt us, and then OTK. First off, Fighting Flame Swordsman, our normal summon for the deck, or our main normal summon for the deck, I'll say. On normal or special summon, it can add a spell or trap that mentions Flame Swordsman from your deck to your hand, and that is all of them except for these are just in here because why not? You know, obviously you cut these and play something better. If you want it to be a little bit better, I'd probably just play a second one of these versus this, because it does give you the same attack boost plus being like an additional fusion spell, but I just really wanted to play the dice and the Salamandra. But outside of these two Joey Wheeler cards, the rest of them all mention Flame Swordsman, so you can search whichever spell you like. It has a second effect when it goes to the graveyard. It can then Foolish Burial a Flame Swordsman or a card that mentions it from the deck or the extra deck. Now, more often than not, in your one card setup, you're going to be sending the main deck Salamandra the Flying Flame Dragon, because when this goes to the graveyard, it allows you to search a Salamandra spell or trap, and we're playing the two different Salamandras. Realistically, you're only going to play the one, maybe two copies of the one, and then the trap, I do not play the Kunai Salamandra trap. However, if you have this in your hand already, you're able to send the extra deck Fighting Flame Dragon Salamandra Fusion dude, which can equip itself from the graveyard to your Fighting Flame Swordsman, boost its attack, and give it an extra attack each turn, which in an OTK-based deck is going to be pretty important. Now, for the main deck Salamandra, I mentioned the reason it's in here is because we need to get it sent to the graveyard so that we can search our Salamandra Fusion. It can also equip itself to a warrior monster you control. If that warrior monster is Flame Swordsman or mentions Flame Swordsman, it boosts it by 700 attack. The only time you would equip it to something and not be in search of that attack boost is like if you were going to summon the Ogier, equip it out of your hand because you have no other way to dump it, and then get rid of the Ogier in some way to also send this to the grave to get that search effect. Now, I was playing two of these. I thought two was more than reasonable. The only reason I bumped it up to three is because if you open the Salamandra with the Swords Realm, you have the same OTK combo, and that's basically what this version of the deck is supposed to be. Go second, do whatever interrupting you can, and then be as consistent as possible with opening up that big Ultimate Flame Swordsman combo, and so that's why we're at the 3 here. Ogier's the same deal. It's like your second string version of Fighting Flame Swordsman. On normal summon, it can Foolish Burial a warrior, so if you don't have this in your hand, you would normal summon the Ogier, dump the Fighting Flame Swordsman, and then you get the Fighting Flame Swordsman's effect to dump the Salamandra, and then you get the Salamandra effect to search the Salamandra Fusion. So as long as you can get to the Swords Realm, somehow you'd be able to use the Ogier, send it to the graveyard, put the Flame Swordsman on board, and you'd have the Fusion equip spell in your hand to make the Ultimate Flame Swordsman. It does require additional cards in your hand outside of itself for it to get you to that same combo, but that's why I said it's the second string version. This is always going to be better. We're also playing one Rick Ardetto. This is a free special summon, so essentially the deck can make some rank 4s that do a little something. If you get forced to go first, you can go Gallic Granite, search your Nibiru, because you don't want to set up your board going first. It does nothing. You got to go second. If you are going second and you got a little extra gas in your hand or you need that extra search, you can go for the Dempsey by using a normal summon and a special summon. Or if you're grinding a little bit because the OTK didn't work quite as well as you had hoped, the Daigusto Emerald can reload the deck a little bit with some of your monsters, probably extra deck monsters more often than not, but it could be anything. And the fact that it makes whatever it's summoning a tuner would give you access to some of your extra deck. I'm only playing the 2 synchros. It's not super important, but it can come up. It's fairly consistent to make the Brown to Floor. All you would need is to open the Gearfried or dump it off of the Ogier, and you would be able to make the Brown to Floor a lot of times, and so that's a nice card to have in there. For the last Infernoble night, we're playing 2 Renaud. It's a great extender. It can get you back your equipped spells from your Graveyard or Banish Zone. It can get back your Fire monsters from Graveyard or Banish Zone. It also treats itself as a level 1 tuner if you special summon it off of its effect, which you are pretty much always going to do. You're never going to waste your normal summon on this, which would allow you to get into your Roland, which could come up every now and again, or whatever other level 5 you want. You could even potentially play around with level 6s, something like Coral Dragon. If you were able to get an additional Flame Swordsman on board, which will come up every now and then, you can Renaud into a level 6 Synchro. That might give you some advantage, so I really liked it at 2. We've got the one Gear Freed. It's an Infernoble deck. It plays a good enough number of equipped spells, and you can banish them and get them back with Renaud still, so it's like a free summon at that point. A lot of times, if I'm summoning this, I'm also going to get to the Renaud with a search effect somewhere, and so I'm just going to use that to make the Baronne, but even if you left it up, you'd be able to use its interruption effect, so good card all around. Probably wouldn't play it at more than 1 though, because it doesn't really fit into the scheme of the deck. It's just a really nice like additional piece. We got triple Ash, 1 Nibiru. Triple Nibiru might be better going second. The only problem is if you win the dice roll and you say, I'll go second, they're going to assume you're either maining triple Nibiru, triple evenly, or both, and they're going to probably play around the Nibiru if they have the ability to do so. And so if I'm going to choose to go second and you're going to play around a Nibiru that I probably don't have, perfect. The Ash is just as good an interrupt, I think, if you can figure out where in a play line to stop them. For our spells, we've got triple Fighting Flame Sword. This thing is nuts. It's a tri-modal effect, so you get to pick one. It either adds a card from your deck to your hand that mentions a Flame Swordsman except Fighting Flame Sword, so it can't add a copy of itself, but it searches any other Flame Swordsman card other than Salamandra. And so, crazy search. Or when an attack is declared involving a Fire Warrior monster you control, you can target on a field and destroy it, so you can protect your, if you ended up leaving like an Ogier or a Renaud on board for whatever reason, which is usually, it's just a sloppy end to a board because you wanted like the recursion effect or something, or if I'm leaving the Ogier on board so that I can drop it by 1,000 to boost the ultimate by 1,000 or something of that nature. If they try to attack over it, you can just pop something, so nice there as well. And then for the third one, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets Flame Swordsman or something that mentions it that you control, you can negate that effect, so you can protect your ultimate Flame Swordsman probably more often than anything else. There's no reason to protect many of these other cards, but you can protect that ultimate Flame Swordsman if they try to remove it before you get that OTK off, so amazing card for the deck. Triple Flame Swords Realm, this thing is also pretty sick, and the art on it is beautiful. So starting off, when you normal summon a Fire Warrior monster, your opponent can't activate cards or effects in response to it, so it protects all of your normal summon activations like your Fighting Flame Swordsman, your Ogier that do something on the summon. A lot of times you're going to be searching this off of the normal summon of Fighting Flame Swordsman though, so that won't come up unless you open this. However, once it's on the board, you can send one monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyards to special summon a Flame Swordsman from your extra deck. So it is Flame Swordsman specifically, so that's why we're playing the 3 Flame Swordsman in the extra deck there. And then finally, once per turn, when a monster declares an attack, you can target a warrior monster you control until the end of the turn. It loses 1,000 attack, but all other monsters you currently control gain 1,000 attack. That also stacks, so if you have multiple of these on the field, this is a play that I've pulled off. If you put a Baronne on the field, it's got 3,000 attack with 2 of these. You can use that effect on both cards, drop the Baronne to 1,000, and pump up everything else by 2,000. So you would be sitting at like 5 or 6k on your ultimate Flame Swordsman without using his effect to double his own attack. Really sick that they stack. So also excellent 3 up there. This would be one of the cards you want to see. If you're not going to open your Fighting Flame Swordsman and you're getting some of this other stuff that are like your backup versions of it, if you can open this with some of your backup stuff, you've still got the full OTK, no worries. Now I've got the 1 Salamandra Fusion, the 1 Salamandra. The 1 Salamandra just pumps something by 700 attack, a fire monster in particular, and it's just in there for the flavor. Ideally you're playing 2 of these. For the Salamandra Fusion, this is your like polymerization for the deck. You equip it to a Fire Warrior monster, it gains 700 attack. If that monster were going to be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy the Salamandra Fusion instead. That's only relevant if you were to equip it to your ultimate Flame Swordsman after it's been summoned, because if you use its effect to double its attack and try to go for game and you don't for whatever reason, it destroys itself. But if it's equipped with the Salamandra Fusion, you can just send the Salamandra Fusion instead to protect it. Also, while it's equipped to a fusion monster, you can send it to the graveyard, this card and the monster it's equipped to fusion summon a Flame Swordsman or a card that mentions it. So if you have this that you summoned off of this, and this that you searched off of this, you would be able to send this and the Flame Swordsman to the graveyard to make your ultimate Flame Swordsman. Or I suppose also you could just make your Fighting Flame Dragon or your Dark Flare Knight, but those are both not particularly good summons. This is what we're going for. So great card, and it feels like it fits the flavor of the deck really nicely. 1 Graceful Dice. This is definitely gimmicky just once again for the flavor, but it actually can kind of come up because if you drop it on a Ultimate Flame Swordsman and you roll, you know, whatever, a 3, it actually boosts it by 600, not 300, because you're going to do it on the Ultimate Flame Swordsman and then use its effect to double itself. And so it's a kind of a gimmicky, like, non-reliable way to juice this guy up. But if you can finish an OTK with a Graceful Dice on a Flame Swordsman, I don't know that it gets a whole lot more Joey Wheeler than that, and so I had to do it. We've got the one Instant Fusion. I chose this over the Ready Fusion because I was really only going to play one of these. If you can tell, there's not a whole lot of space in the deck for additional copies of this type of a card. And it can hit the Flame Swordsman, the Mud Dragon for a rank 4 play that we kind of talked about earlier, or even you're fighting Flame Dragon and then just equip to your Ultimate Flame Swordsman. So it has a lot of different little utilities in there, so I picked that. If you're going to play the Ready Fusion, it can still get you the Flame Swordsman, but you'd have to play the Darkfire Dragon instead of the Mud Dragon of the Swamp. I suppose that doesn't really matter a whole lot, but this is probably the reason the Instant Fusion is the better choice. We've got the triple Durandal. It's like 3 additional copies of Rhoda for the deck, and then we've got the 1 copy of Rhoda. It's like a 4th copy of Durandal for the deck. We've got the 1 Foolish Burial because we have a couple of effects that trigger out of the graveyard. The Ricardetto also can be out of the graveyard. Maybe you want to dump the Immortal Phoenix Gear Free because you have the Renaud and you can just put it back in your hand. A couple different things you can do with it, so it felt nice. We've got Double Pot of Prosperity. A lot of the extra deck is redundant or unneeded, or like once you see that opening hand, you'll know whether or not you need certain cards in it, and so you can just start digging away. The Double Dark Ruler no more. This could also be Droplet because you usually have stuff in your hand that you don't necessarily need, but you do need to turn off effects. It being a quick effect probably matters a little bit more if you get stuck going first, so maybe the Droplet would be a better choice, but this being no cost felt better to me. Being able to shut off the whole board instead of having to pick and choose also felt kind of useful to me. So that's why we're here. And then we've got the 1 Flame Swords Dance, the 1 new trap that is worth playing, I feel. If a monster is special summon a level 7 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck that is Flame Swordsman or mentions it, then you can Book of Moon something. During your opponent's battle phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard and tribute a face-down defense position monster, special summon a Flame Swordsman, or a monster that mentions it from your deck or extra deck. So 2 things there. It gives you that Book of Moon effect. If they summon something, it just gives you a free body. The level 7 or lower just means you can't have this. You can summon any of these. It's the reason I put the Dark Flare Knight in here. Not a good card. It just, once again, we're here for the flavor. Dark Flare Knight special summon off of the Flame Swords Dance. Beautiful. Perfect. Love it. Moving on. Triple Imperm because it's Imperm and it's great. Into the extra deck, we've got Ferocious Flame Swordsman. It bumps everything by 500. It does nothing for the deck otherwise. This should definitely be cut and played for something else if you want to play the deck a little bit more competitively, but it fits the deck, so we had to play it. The 1 Barone and the 1 Roland we kind of talked about already, as well as the rank 4s, and really the whole extra deck we kind of talked about already. The only one that we haven't really discussed, I guess, in enough detail are these 2. So first off, Fighting Flame Dragon is your best equipped monster in the deck, I would say. So from the field or graveyard, it can quick effect attach itself to a warrior fusion monster you control. If it's a Flame Swordsman monster, it bumps its attack by 700, and then that monster can make a second attack during each battle phase, meaning you are probably pumping out like over 10,000 damage with your Ultimate Flame Swordsman, and that's why it matters. This is also the reason why a Dogmatica engine could potentially work in the deck okay, just because the Maximus can dump these into the graveyard pretty easily and then set you up for a double attack off of your ultimate and do, 10,000 plus damage, so it gets you into that OTK range pretty easily. I just like this better. It felt like a nice use for the Infernoble stuff. This is also pretty cheap. Not that Dogmatica stuff isn't, it's all fairly cheap. And really, I think I've had not too much trouble getting this guy more than big enough to create an OTK. It's just a matter of getting the play off. You can get the cards in your hand fairly reliably. And speaking of the star of the show here, Ultimate Flame Swordsman, it has a quick effect pop and burn, so you can target a monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Now this is only a quick effect if it's equipped with an equip card, so any of your monsters or your spells or whatever, which is very easy to do. The deck does that as like one of its main things, so that's going to be a quick effect pop. You summon it on your turn, pop something, pass, pop something, and then its second effect is the OTK enabler. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles, you can double this card's attack until the end of this turn, but if you do, destroy it at the end of the turn. So basically what you're doing is all your eggs, one basket, one big attack, go for it. Hopefully that's enough to get the game win right there. If you're lucky enough to open your one card combo and a little extra gas, you can go for it with the Fighting Flame Dragon, so you get all of your eggs in 2 baskets, 2 big attacks. Hopefully you can get the game right there. And then if that doesn't work, he just dies in the end phase. That would be the only reason you would play the Mirage Swordsman, as it would replace itself, but then you'd have to work this Foolish Burial effect into the deck somewhere to make sure it's in the graveyard to do that, and that just isn't super reliable unless you open both of these. So that's why it's not in the main deck. Basically, I just try to shove as much into the deck to assure that this guy's attack is lethal damage every time you get him on the field. So you're just going to have to test that out and see if it works for you the way it's worked for me. I think it's pretty fun. If this stuff's all cheap enough, which I think it will be, I might pick it up. Really, this deck as a whole is very cheap at this point. I think the most expensive stuff will, apart from the new stuff, like this will probably be a few dollars, but I think a lot of this, I think these are ultras, that's a super, I want to say this is a rare, and then a lot of this stuff has been reprinted recently. It's like $1 or less, even the extra deck, maybe this, I think this might even be a super rare, so that won't even be expensive. Oddly enough, this is kind of an expensive card. You don't need it though, so just don't play it if you don't want to spend the $5 on this piece of shit. Everything else here has either been recently reprinted, or even the Dempsey, which is not, it's still only like $4, so something fun, pick it up, give it a shot. I'm going to show you this one card OTK setup. It's probably been seen by now if you're looking around for these deck lists, but I'll show it to you anyway. Alright, for our one card OTK setup, it doesn't get you to 8k damage on board just on its own, but more often than not, as long as you are opening a 5-card hand, you'll be able to bump that Ultimate Flame Swordsman all the way up to 8k or more. So we'll normal summon our Fighting Flame Swordsman. We'll activate its effect. We're going to search the Swords Realm. Swords Realm is going to be activated, and then we're going to use it to pop our Fighting Flame Swordsman to get a regular Flame Swordsman out of the extra deck, and trigger the Fighting Flame Swordsman effect out of the graveyard to Foolish Burial Salamandra from the deck. Now right there, if you opened the Salamandra, you would just send the extra deck Fighting Flame Dragon Fusion Salamandra dude, and then you would just have the extra 700 attack and double attack that you can put on your Ultimate Flame Swordsman at the end. But in this instance, we sent the Salamandra to get the search for the Salamandra Fusion, grab our Salamandra Fusion, and we're going to equip it to our Flame Swordsman. So Flame Swordsman is equipped. We're going to use the Salamandra Fusion's effect to send both of them to the graveyard for our Ultimate Flame Swordsman, and then we're going to use the Salamandra main deck monster, equip it to our Ultimate Flame Swordsman, so he goes up to 3,500. So right here, when he attacks, here we'll go to battle phase. When he attacks, you'll get the effect to double his attack. He'll go up to 7k, so he'll do 7,000 damage. You also have that pop one to burn for 500. So you're going second, remember. If they don't have a monster for you to pop, either you're playing against a crazy back row deck that's going to kill you, or you're just going to win in this turn either way, but that pop will get you another 500, so you're 500 off. That just means you need any other equipped spell, any of your Infernobles, anything like that will just get you there, and you're good to go. And then just to show you what I was talking about with the Ogier being like your B-team Fighting Flame Swordsman, if you open your Ogier plus your Swords Realm, you can do essentially that same combo. So you're going to activate that Swords Realm first just to protect your normal summon since you have it. We'll normal summon our Ogier, get that Foolish Burial effect, and we're just going to dump the Fighting Flame Swordsman to get that effect anyway. We'll use that Fighting Flame Swordsman's effect to dump the Salamandra, and then we'll use the Salamandra effect to search the Fusion. So now this will still work. You can just send your Ogier, go with the Flame Swordsman, and then it's all going to play out kind of the same. Salamandra Fusion equipped to the Flame Swordsman, activate its effect, send everything, Ultimate Flame Swordsman, bada bing, bada boom. But the difference here now, because it was the 2 card, is you have 2 equipped monsters to equip to your Fighting Flame Swordsman out of your graveyard, and that is a little bit something extra. It's pretty nice. Now this works as like a permanent Salamandra Fusion when it's equipped to your Ultimate Flame Swordsman. During the end phase, if you used his effect to double and he doesn't do lethal damage and he tries to off himself, you would just not, because it can no longer be destroyed by card effects, including his own. So he's going to have to stick around for one more turn, I guess. You're still only at the 3,500, which is only the 7,500 in total potential damage, so you'd still need additional stuff to help you get there, but you're getting the idea, I think. And then just for one last 2-card little setup here, just to show you the reason for the Renaud being in here. One of the reasons is it can push you into lethal damage, so we'll go with the same setup that we've been doing. and then the Renaud just gives you the extra 700 attack on the Ultimate Flame Swordsman at the end, pretty much, as well as allowing it to protect itself from destroying itself. So same play, Swords Realm, get you the Flame Swordsman, effect to dump the Salamandra, Salamandra effect to search the Salamandra Fusion. I probably don't need to reiterate this over and over and over again. It's a very repetitive deck, it's just different ways to get to the same end board more or less, but I just want to make sure I'm covering my bases here, explaining some of the choices I've made. So we're at 3,500, the Renaud can special summon itself. On the special summon we can have our Salamandra Fusion back. We'll equip it to the Ultimate Flame Swordsman, so he's at 42, and then when you attack with it, he'll be at 84. We're not going to use that effect because he does not have 1,000 attack, but it's probably a good time to mention. So this effect, you need the monster to have 1,000 attack in order to reduce it by 1,000 attack. Go figure. So if this is an Ogier, like if you happen to have a way to Ricardetto out the Ogier or the Fighting Flame Swordsman, and you just leave this on the board as an Ogier, you would be able to bump them by another 1,000, meaning this is now 10,400 attack, and you're really starting to get into the range of like Utopia double into the 10,000 attack Utopia for game. And that's where it starts to become a more efficient OTK based deck, is all of the little additional pieces that you're going to open up, they all kind of can do a similar thing in pumping this guy up more and more. And so it's really just to protect the castle, big swing for game every single time. That's going to wrap it up for Flame Swordsman this week. If you guys are opening packs, best of luck. I hope you pull so many copies of Bonfire, because that is ridiculous. I think you could build this whole deck for the cost of one Bonfire at the moment, so consider that, my friends. Maybe just buy something fun, not something competitive. If you give this a try, let me know how you like it down below. If you've tested out some other variants, let me know what those were. Maybe I'll give those a try in the future here. It's fun. It feels very brings me back to my youth, my childhood, playing the Joey Wheeler deck. So definitely, if you're old like me, give this a shot. I'm sure it'll get you right in the feels. Happy deck building. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Goodbye.